Welcome back to Small Caps. My name is Kerry Stevenson. I've asked Michael Schwarz, the Managing Director of iTech Minerals. ASX code is ITM. Now, iTech Minerals are on the Eyre Peninsula down there in South Australia, and they have in the critical minerals sector because they have got graphite, they've got kaolin, and they've got a clay. I always get the clay-hosted rare earths exploration projects, and they're all very close together, which means it's very efficient what they're doing. But I've asked Michael to come and chat to us today because there's some news out about the first project, and that is the big one, the metallurgical test work on your Campuna graphite project. Tell us what have you been up to? Because you only listed, last time I spoke to you, you said, yes, we're an IPO and we're listing, and I think it was October last year you listed. You've been very busy.
Yeah, we have, Kerry. Thanks for asking. We listed, I think it was the 21st of October last year. So we really hit the ground running and have, really endeavoured to spend shareholders' funds efficiently and get our exploration underway quickly. So we started off on the clay-hosted rare earths and managed to find a very large exploration target at Carroloo Bluff. But in the meantime, while we were waiting for all those results to come in, we sent off a bulk sample of our Campuna ore over to Anzaplan in Germany, who are a specialist metallurgical consultancy. And the aim of that project was to determine if we could economically and efficiently produce purified spherical graphite for the anodes of lithium-ion batteries. So they're the results we've just got back recently, and they've been very successful.
Why did you have to send them over to Anzaplan? Is this so just let me make this clear. You're trying to ensure that you do this in a environmentally friendly way. Why did you have to go to Anzaplan, which is a German company?
So Anzaplan are specialists in using a particular technique of purifying this graphite, which is either a caustic bake or a caustic leach method. Previously, we had in our flow sheet a method that uses a chemical called hydrofluoric acid. Now, that's quite a toxic chemical. It's if you get it onto your skin, you can absorb it. It dissolves the calcium out of your bones. It's something you really don't want to use in an industrial process if you can help it at all. So we did have approval to use that within our flow sheet, but we thought there's got to be a lot more environmentally friendly way, because with the hydrofluoric acid, you've got to neutralise it, dispose of it. It's a once-off use chemical for purifying that graphite. So our test work was to take a bulk sample of 600 kilos. We sent that to Germany, and they did a simple flotation method where they were able to purify that graphite from about 10% up to 94%. And that's about the limit of what you can do with flotation. But they did that through normal flotation, normal, cost-effective, cheap method of concentrating it. And the next step is where we would have traditionally used hydrofluoric acid. But we asked Anzaplan to try this caustic bake method instead. And using that, they were able on multiple samples to achieve a purity of 99.99%. And that's a really good outcome. So the cutoff is about 99.95 for purified spherical graphite. And having 99.99, that allows us a lot of leeway in the production of it to keep above that 99.95. So really happy with the outcome. The spherical graphite we produced was all within the required battery specifications. And this was really our first go at it. So we were very happy with the results.
Graphite's currently being used. I mean, there's Mozambique graphite. There's, I think, graphite in China as well. Are they all using this acid? What was it? The hydrofluoric acid.
A lot of the processes in China are using hydrofluoric acid. That's the standard method for purifying it from 94 to 99.99%. But most of the companies that are looking at having really good environmental and economic credentials outside of China are looking at this caustic leach process now. So I think it's going to become the norm, and the one that's really going to be environmentally and socially accepted in any operations outside of China.
How long did it take, that process of getting the ore across to Anzaplan, going through the process and getting the results back? How long did that take, and what are the next steps?
Yeah, so it was a long process. It took 9 months from when we sent the ore across. So they did a very thorough test work process to build it up from that 9-10% to the 94%, and then trying the different methods of purifying it. And what we also did was there's a real economic advantage in being able to purify the flake graphite before you turn it into these spheres or balls, because if you can purify it to 99.99% before and then you spherinize it, you can sell your spherical graphite at a really high price, thousands of US dollars per ton, but you can also sell that leftover component, which would normally go for $400 or $500 US dollars a ton. But if that's been purified beforehand, you'll get thousands of dollars a ton for that material as well, because they use it as a conductivity agent in lithium-ion batteries in the positive terminal. And it's got a lot of other high technical uses as well. So we were able to do that. We were able to purify both the flake and the spherical graphite to that 99.99%, which means that the economics improved dramatically.
Do you have to do more test work, or are you comfortable with what you've done? What's the next steps, Michael?
So this was what we call a bulk scale sample. So the first test is normally bench scale, which uses about 50 kilos. We've then gone for the 500-600 kilo, which is bulk scale. That shows you can do it in an industrial scale process. The next step will be a pilot plant scale. So that's where you're using about 500 tons plus, and that's really testing the larger scale processes that you've developed and see how efficient and effective they are. And normally you have the opportunity to optimize all of those processes so you can get better recoveries, you can get higher grades. Now, it's going to be hard to optimize ours because ours are all pretty good, but any efficiencies that we can gain, we'll take. So that really will be the next step from here.
Pilot plant in Germany, pilot plant here. Where's the pilot plant? How long is that going to take to go through?
We're still working that out at the moment. They have the capacity to do it in Germany. It's probably the most logical next step, rather than doing something here in Australia. What I like about doing it in Germany is it essentially gets pre-qualified for a lot of the US and European markets if you do the test work over there. These are the companies that battery suppliers and makers will go to get your material qualified. So if you've got it done with these guys, you're kind of pre-qualified, so that helps a lot.
Well, wouldn't you be, if they did the pilot plant, wouldn't you? I mean, I was coming up with a cheeky answer saying, what, don't they trust the Australians to do a pilot plant properly? But are you suggesting that if it's over there, they could see it in operation and then they go, well, where's that material come from? Then you go into the big processing plant, which I assume they'll help design and build here in South Australia.
Yeah, that's right, Kerry. So because they've got all the equipment set up in Germany to do the pilot scale processing, you basically just pay a toll to get it run through that equipment rather than having to establish it here yourself in Australia. So there's quite a few cost savings there. And then once they've designed the plant and done all the engineering specs for your particular process, then that's what you get built by a contractor here in Australia. So our operations would be based on the Eyre Peninsula, and we would have the specifications that have been designed for our plant overlooked by the people that have designed it when the construction is underway.
Do you have any idea on sort of the capex of this plant and any challenges?
Look, it's pretty early stages yet, but some of the preliminary costings we've got show that we're well within the ballpark of a relatively low-cost producer of spherical graphite. So, look, it's probably too early to say anything publicly. We've only done back-of-the-envelope calculations with the results we've got, but it's looking pretty positive.
Okay, so that's positive, and that is based on your Campuna graphite, right? And that's going to get a premium price on that premium grade because of how you're doing it. That's pretty exciting. But what's the idea of the mine life? And talk to us about sort of how do you expand on that? Have you got some exploration targets around it? How big is this potential?
Yeah, sure. So we currently have a JORC defined resource of 8.5 million tonnes at 9% graphite. And we've calculated that would give us around a 13 to 15 year mine life based on a 50,000 tonne per annum operation. So, 13-year mine life it's at the lower end. We want to build up our resources so that we can build that out to something like a 50-year mine life, 40 to 50 year, and also have the potential or the option to produce graphite at a higher rate than 50,000 tonnes per annum. So there's always the option of building your processing plant in modules, in 50,000 tonne per annum modules. So if we've got the resources there, we can then have that optionality and look at the economic impact of doing that. So with a view to that, we just released yesterday a new exploration target at a project near Campuna, just a few, about 10 k's away, called Sugarloaf. And we came up with a graphite exploration target of between about 160 and 260 million tonnes at between 7 and 12% graphite. So if you compare that with our current 8.5 million tonnes, that's orders of magnitude larger. And if we can prove that up, and the drilling being successful, that will really give us that scale that we require to up the mine life and the production capacity.
When you talk about the sort of the 9%, just explain for us that don't understand fully what that means. Is that a good percentage?
Look, it's quite a reasonable percentage. So there are some very high grade projects around the world that get up to 25, 26%. Okay. But the bulk of them with the large tonnages and the large capacity are between 7 and 10%. So that's the norm for a graphite deposit. So we're sitting in within that norm.
I'm just trying to get a visual of this graphite and how is it deep? Is it more of a quarry style operation, or is it a big open pit? What's it look like? How difficult is it to get it out of the ground?
So quite often around the world, these are hard rock deposits. So they do take quite a bit of effort to mine. We're quite lucky in that Campuna in particular sits on a sort of a low rise, and it's quite weathered. So it's essentially a free dig operation. So the cost will be low for mining. It's all at surface. It's outcropping. You can see it, outcropping on this hill. So we would go down, 30, 40, 50 metres to mine the graphite and still stay above where it's weathered, and keep those good mining economics. And moving over to Sugarloaf, our new exploration target, again, that's outcropping on a low hill, and it is essentially flat lying. So all of it is very close to surface. We're talking above 100 metres for all this material. So the mining economics for both of these projects look quite good.
That's exciting, actually, because and you got your hands on it from Archer Materials, didn't you? Because they were going more into a sort of a tech play. Is that correct?
Yeah. So they originally defined the Campuna graphite resource, and then there was a downturn in the graphite markets for about 5 years, as we all remember quite well. Yep. So they diversified into technological applications of the graphite. So they produced graphene, and from the graphene they started producing quantum qubit computing chips, which are well out of my area of expertise.
And mine.
They know their stuff extremely well, and they've quite a few goals in that area. So that's where they focused. So we were able to take their exploration assets and then have a look at them with a critical minerals bent. And hence, we've got the graphite project, we've got the kaolin project, and we've got the clay-hosted rare earth project that we've been pushing on since October last year. Yeah,
I want to come on to the rare earths in a moment, but just let's finish up on graphite. If I can ask you this question, we all know we're moving into this whole electric revolution, if you like. What's the market looking like at the moment? Before you said that the prices are quite good and that you'll get a premium price because you're going to have a particular way of processing your graphite. Is there a supply shortfall? Because back in the day, there was a time when the market was a bit challenging.
Well, I mean, I guess a case in point, one of the forerunners in predicting future demand for graphite is a company called Benchmark Mineral Intelligence. And they recently, you've probably seen it, released a report where they've predicted we're going to need another 300 mines at about 50,000 tonnes per annum. So what we're considering is 300 before 2035. So, if we can be one of those or a couple of those, we'll be doing our bit to meet that demand. So, they seem to know what they're talking about. And as you can see, there's a real revolution in renewable energy and electric vehicles. So it doesn't surprise me that that's the kind of prediction they're making. So, we'll be a player in that game, and hopefully a growing player.
And I think it's important to note that you only listed, as we said earlier, in October last year. Are you trying to fast track into development? Because a lot of people will be exploring for years and years and years and years. What's your time frame, do you think, to go from that sort of exploration and building the resource into, well, we've got the pilot plant, we've done the work, and now we're going to get into construction? I know I'm pushing you.
Look, it's a good question. We'll have a better idea towards the end of the year. We're doing a pre-feasibility study, which will give us an idea of the timeframes. But what I can say is that we are very advanced compared to a lot of other explorers, because we were able to acquire a lot of the metallurgical test work from Archer that had already been done. So we were able to fast track that. They already had a granted mining lease. So we have that, which takes a long time to get. So that's been approved and granted, yeah. And that's right adjacent to the Sugarloaf exploration target. They intentionally made it central to all of the different prospects on the Eyre Peninsula. Yeah, so we were very well placed for that. So that's a granted mining lease over Campuna, and granted, they're called multi-purpose licenses for both the processing facility and also for extracting water for processing. So all that has been approved and granted. We're going to have to do a slight modification to our approvals to use the caustic process instead of the hydrofluoric acid, but that's a very welcome approval from a lot of people.
I don't think that's going to be a problem, Michael.
Exactly, no. So I don't think we're going to have any problems with getting that through. So look, the timeframes through to development and production are significantly reduced compared to a lot of other players because of those factors.
Now, you mentioned before, we've been talking about graphite, but you also mentioned kaolin and the rare earth clays, clay rare earths, however you want to put it. I can never remember the clays and the ionics and all the rest of it. But does that mining lease cover those commodities as well? Is it all encompassing, or is that going to be something separate?
So the mining lease is very particular to the graphite deposit, where we have the JORC compliant resource. So we are in the process of we've now defined an exploration target for the kaolin and the rare earths. The next step will be to drill that out, to turn that into a resource. And once we can show the potential for economic development on that, that's when we go into the application for a mining lease on the kaolin and the rare earths.
What about environmentally? Any challenges on that area of the Eyre Peninsula, or is it fairly desert-like?
Well, it is a farming community, and they grow wheat, barley, and have livestock there. But look, we have a really good relationship with the farmers. A lot of the paddocks are only sown every other year, so we can get access to those areas that aren't cropped. So hence sort of us starting drilling towards the end of the year when the harvest has finished. We try to fit in with the farmers and not impacting on their property too much. But what a lot of people don't understand is the footprint of an actual mine is very, very small compared to how much area is farmed. So, if we need to section off a few hectares to mine a particular deposit, it doesn't have a huge impact on the livelihoods of the local farmers, and we would compensate them, adequately anyway, and generously. So we talk about that all up front with the landowners, and they've been very supportive with our operations in the area.
Oh, that's good to know. Look, we don't have a lot of time left. I do want to get onto kaolin very quickly. What are you doing with your kaolin? What are you doing with your clay-hosted rare earths? Because rare earths are hot at the moment as well.
Look, they sure are, and I've got to say we've been working really hard to prove up the potential on the Eyre Peninsula, and there's one project in particular, Carrollee Bluff, which we have a very large exploration target now for both kaolin and for rare earths. So they're one and the same in that prospect. Yeah. So we've done that intentionally in that the critical thing about these style of deposit is the metallurgy, and we're still waiting for our metallurgical results. So what that means is that how easily are you able to extract the rare earths from the clay? You hear the term ionic clays. They're the best type. They're the ones that you can most cheaply extract those rare earths from and have the least impurities. And then there's other types, clay-hosted rare earths, where you have to use slightly stronger acids, but you get more impurities in it. Now, we don't know where we fall in that spectrum of metallurgical extraction techniques yet. We're still waiting for it. So even though we finished drilling in about April, March this year, we had to get all of our geochem results, so our analysis of how many rare earths are in that sample, and that took nearly 2 months because the labs are so backed up. Wow. And then once we got those, we then had to submit the samples for metallurgy. So there's another couple of months wait. So that's where we're waiting at now. So they should be hopefully within the next 2 weeks to month. Now, I've been, disappointed before when I've said when they're going to come out, because, there are, ongoing delays at the labs, but we're getting pretty close now. We're starting to get indications that those results are very close. So we'll have a good understanding about whether what the economics might look like for the metallurgy of these systems. But that's on the rare earth side of things. The kaolin is looking really good, and we're doing ongoing test work on that as well.
We talked a lot about graphite. Michael, don't you have enough on your hands with the graphite project? Do you need the kaolin and the rare? Sorry, a bit rude, but just want to ask that question.
It's an understandable question. There is a lot going on, but we like it that way. We like to have many irons in the fire. If more than one of these projects comes off, they could all be, very substantial value increases for the company and for our share price. So, working on the Eyre Peninsula within kilometres of individual prospects gives us a great exploration efficiency. So, we can take the drill rig from our kaolin rare earth project over to the graphite and back again. And, the samples all get transported from the same general area to the labs. And, there's a lot of efficiency involved in exploring in the same location. So we believe that, while we have got a lot going on, the efficiency of our exploration allows us to advance these projects simultaneously.
Which is a good thing. There's a lot of talk at the moment, not only about inflation, etc., but it's also the challenge with finding people. How are you doing with your workforce?
Well, we were very. I'm a geologist by trade, so that helps. I can pitch in when I need to. We were very fortunate to have the geologist from Archer come across to us. So with that came 10 plus years of experience on the projects. So he's been running our exploration programs, and we've been very fortunate. That's why we've been able to advance so quickly and really hit the ground running, is we've had that internal expertise right from day one. And then, we're a pretty efficient operation. We've been using contractors. The great thing about the Eyre Peninsula, there are locals that are looking for work in the off season. So field hands, that kind of thing. We've been employing the locals, which is good for them, good for us. Everybody's happy.
Well, we're running out of time, my friend. Everybody likes that. And I just want to say congratulations, because you really, I think, are going fast tracking from not spending years and years and years exploring, but from what if I'm hearing it right, you're going to be working towards development in the near future. Would that be correct?
Yeah, look, that's our aim. The metallurgy on the graphite is a big step towards development now that we've proved we can produce battery-grade spherical graphite. The next step will be the metallurgy on the rare earths and the kaolin, to show that we can have an economic metallurgical process, and then we can really get into the economic studies and within the next 6 months start those studies and have them well underway. So that's when you start getting serious about development. So we're well into that already.
Michael, when are you going to get is it 600 tonnes that you've got to send over to Germany for the pilot plant? What's the timeline on that?
So we are collecting that material in December. We have approvals to collect that material from Campuna, and we'll be sending that over shortly after. So it'll be early in the new year.
It's exciting. There's a lot of news flow coming up. Michael, everyone knows I like to finish up my conversations with this, and that is, if there are our community listening out there at the moment, why should they be sitting up and taking notice of iTech Minerals right now?
Okay. Look, there's probably three things I'd say, and if I could take a little bit more of your time and break the first one down into three different components.
Cheeky.
Yeah. Look, I'm sorry, I have to take that liberty if I can, because I've got so much to say. We're a critical minerals company looking for materials that go into the renewable energy revolution. So our critical mineral base is threefold. It's the graphite, as we've talked about, for spherical graphite for use in lithium-ion batteries. It's kaolin, which are used in very similar technological applications. It could be used for high-purity alumina, which is used in all sorts of technological applications, iPhones, in lithium-ion batteries as separators. And then finally, the rare earths, which everybody probably knows about, because that's used in the high field strength magnets in electric motors. So they use those in wind turbines and electric vehicles. So it's really threefold for the first part of the question, those three commodities. And then And point number two, Kerry, is the efficiency of our exploration. So with those three main commodities that we're looking for, to get things happening quickly, we need our efficiency of exploration. So we're geographically all located in the same area, so we can take that drill rig and those samples from one location and move it to the next very, very quickly. So yeah, that works out really well for us too.
And your final point, what do you reckon? I reckon your third point would be that you're going, well, you know what, you've done a lot of work. The exploration to development, I guess, would be a pretty exciting time for you.
Yeah, look, we fast-tracked our exploration. We've got to the point where we're nudging the development scenarios. We're getting into scoping study area for both the graphite and the rare earths and kaolin. So I think in the next 6 months, we'll start to see some real value creation points for the company where we start to prove up the economics of each of these projects. We do have to get the metallurgy back from our rare earths. That will be a critical understanding for those projects. But, we've pretty much solved a lot of the problems along the graphite front. So it's adding resources to the graphite, which is the critical thing. And we've got the scope to do that, as you can see in our release on Sugarloaf.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. And I also know, because Michael, you don't talk about it, but I know that you care about shareholder value, and that's what you're working towards all the time. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. iTech Minerals, as I said right at the start, the ASX code is ITM. Michael Schwarz is the managing director. He's also a geologist, all in the critical mineral space with the kaolin, with the rare earths, and with that very large graphite project, which has ticked a massive box with how they're going to do the processing without all that nasty acid stuff. So, Michael Schwarz, thanks so much for joining me on Small Caps today.
Thanks, Kerry. It's a pleasure.